Hey, what is up, mortals? It is GrogFunky here, with a new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of season 3 of What If Deku Was a Dragon Slayer. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so, we begin. After 32 torturous hours in the cave, the dragon Lacrima fully absorbed into the 3 Dragon Slayer teens. Loxus left at some point during the process. The 3 youths were too consumed in pain to remember why the scar-faced man left. After the whole process, the last thing the 3 remembered was the voice of Urza Scarlet. Well done, you 3. I thought the process would have taken at least 3 days, but you have surprised me again. Relax now, young ones. You have all earned it. The crimson-haired knight spoke in her usual stern tone, but all 3 could swear they heard a tone of pride in her voice. That, or the pain from absorbing the lacrima, had fried their brains. After hearing this praise from their master, the 3 youths passed out completely. Urza spoke out toward the cave opening. Could you take care of them for me? I have to attend to the other students. A male voice spoke to Urza. Of course, darling. I'll take them back to their cabins to rest for the day. I'll also keep watch over them while they sleep. Even here, we cannot be too careful. After all, these 3 may be our best hope for defeating him. A tall man walked into the cave and stood beside Urza. The man had short-cut blue hair and a tattoo on the right side of his face. I don't like the idea of forcing these young ones to fight our battles for us. They should not have to bear the burden of our failures. Don't forget, Urza, they will not be fighting alone. We'll be there to support them. Also, it's not just our fight. If our enemy has his way, then this world will be destroyed the same as ours was. We cannot let that happen again. True, but it still makes me uneasy. Urza then turned and gave the blue-haired man a loving gaze. However, I am glad that we are back together, if even for a short while, Jalal. The woman wrapped her arms around the man in a fierce hug. So am I, Urza. Jalal then returned the embrace. The 2 broke their hug. Urza left the caves first to return to the other 1A students. Jalal then waved his hand through the air. The limp bodies of the teens levitated into the air. The 3 hovering forms then followed Jalal as he left the cave. Elsewhere, Shigaraki sat at the bar in his hideout, enjoying a drink. Kurogiri noticed that his master looked unusually happy today. Master, are you all right? You seem out of character today.
I'm fine, Kurogiri. I've just realized how narrow my sight has been.
How so, Master?
I was so focused on destroying All Might that I missed the big picture. Even if I destroyed that smiling jerk, his legacy would still remain. The Hero Society, all those smiling civilians, and those little punks who foiled my plans were all inspired by All Might.
So, have you decided not to destroy the number 1 hero?
Not at all. I just think that it would be more fun to destroy his legacy in front of his eyes. Oh, to see the despair on his face. Only once he realizes that all of his hard work was for naught. Then, and only then, will I end this ridiculous life once and for all.
Is that where the team of new recruits come in?
Before, I tried to overwhelm All Might and the heroes with numbers. It wasn't a bad idea, but all the villains I employed were super weak. I now see that to take down the Hero Society, I will need heavy hitters. That's where the Vanguard Action Squad comes in. If they achieve their mission, good. If they fail or members die or are captured, then I know I'll need to get stronger pieces.
You plan to use them as cannon fodder?
Do you really think I'm that heartless? We are teammates working toward the same goal. I would never belittle their importance. But I am the player, and this is my game. And no matter what game you're playing, some pieces will need to be sacrificed. I can't wait to see how they handle themselves. This should be entertaining.
At yet another hideout, the villain Acnologia sat in the dark. The monstrous man held out a lacrima in his hand. The orb was black in color and glowed with a sinister red light. So it seems All for One's apprentice is making his move. Good. That will give me the cover I need to make my plan happen. A huge grin broke out across the disturbed man's face. The first part of my plan is complete. I have the first item, It was easier to get than I imagined. All I need to do is get the other item. Fortunately, I have found it. The jaxed man shoved the lacrima into his chest. The glass orb vanished into the broad chest of the ancient monster. He then stood up and walked towards the door. Before I get the other item, let me go and try out this new power of mine. Shigaraki's assault team should be gathering outside the camp for their attack. That will be the perfect cover for my test. Acnologia walked into an empty alleyway. The man started to glow with a sinister black aura. The man then took off into the sky like a rocket. Back at the camp, the 3 Dragon Slayer youths were fast asleep. Jalal then took Wendy back to the girls' cabin. The small girl was being watched over by Lucy, who had been recruited by Urza to help with the training camp. The blue-haired man had then taken both Midoriya and Kaminari to the boys' cabin, and was watching over them himself. Kaminari laid in the bed, jerking back and forth in his sleep. It was clear that the yellow-haired boy was having an awful dream. Suddenly, the teen started talking in his sleep. No! Look out! The young man then sat bolt upright in his bunk and shouted, "Fish sticks!" After a moment, the boy calmed down and looked around the room. The boy was wondering where he was. From the bed across from him, a voice replied in a somber tone. Do you mind keeping it down, Kaminari? My head is killing me. Not to mention the rest of me. Midoriya, how did we get here? I imagine that guy brought us here. Midoriya pointed to Jalal, who was seated in a chair behind the 2 boys' beds. You're both awake. That is good. I expected you to be out for longer. Urza said you were resilient, but this is something else. Not to be rude, mister, but who are you? Midoriya, the hero fanboy, broke in. He's the heavenly hero, Alteris! But I have no idea what he's doing here. Midoriya is correct. That is my hero name, but you 2 can call me Jalal. As for your question, Kaminari, I brought you 2 boys back to the boys' cabin after you finished assimilating to the Dragon Lacrima. Jalal noticed that Midoriya was getting a worried look on his face. Don't fear, Midoriya. Wendy's fine. I took her to the girls' cabin to rest. She's getting watched over by Lucy Heartfilia. Oh, that's good. Jalal nodded. As I was saying, I brought you here because Urza Scarlet asked me to. Just then, the door to the cabin opened. Urza Scarlet walked into the room. Well, I see that you boys are awake. That is good to see. Urza turned to Jalal. The armored woman had a tender look in her eyes as she spoke. Thank you for looking after them, Jalal. Midoriya spoke up at this point. So, Master, how do you know Alteris? I know him, Midoriya, because he's my husband, the tall woman said matter-of-factly. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. With our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes for free. Link is in the description below. Both boys' minds were blown. Neither boy would have called Urza unattractive. Quite the opposite, actually. However, the idea that the stern woman was married to was a total shock. Midoriya was very familiar with Alteris. While the man was not as popular as someone like All Might or even Urza, he still had a strong following. The man was also a capable hero. Standing in the same room as the man, Midoriya now knew that the man was also a wizard. While all other information was impressive, it paled in comparison to the fact that he was married to a hero like Titania. Kaminario got a goofy look on his face. The boy thought to himself that Jalal must be a true superhuman to survive living with a woman like Urza. Urza saw the idiotic look on the bolt-haired boy's face. The crimson-haired knight pointed her gauntlet hand at Kaminari. You're thinking something unseemly, aren't you, Kaminari? Stop that right now and remove that ridiculous look from your face. Kaminari replied in a panicked voice. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Now, do you 2 think you can rejoin your classmates? They've been hard at work. Both boys nodded to their teacher. Both were still feeling very drained from their time in the cave. However, after hearing the story that Urza and Loxus told them, the 2 knew that they needed to get much stronger. Master, how is Wendy doing? She's doing fine. The girl wasn't eager to get back to the training as you two. In fact, she and Lucy have already joined the others. Then we should get going. Right, get changed, both of you. Urza turned to her husband. Jalal, when they are ready, you can put them to whatever we discussed into action. Of course, my dear. You can always count on me. After the boys got changed, Jalal led the two to join their other classmates. When the two boys walked up on their classmates, they saw that the members of 1A were indeed at hard work. Each one of their classmates was involved in a different type of training to improve their powers. Several members of 1A saw Midoriya and Kaminari approaching. A small group of students, including Yaoyorozu, Ashido, Uraraka, and Aoyama, led by Wendy, ran up to the two boys. They asked if the boys were doing all right. The Dragon Teens answered that they were, and that they were ready to start training. As the group interacted, Loxus came up to the group. The man spoke in a firm tone. Hey, who told you five you could stop training? The 1A group all freaked out at the sound of the man's voice. Kaminari knew that tone all too well. The man had used that very voice during their training as a wizard. The blonde understood why his friends all shrinked from their former master. The man could be scary easily. The man with the bolt scar looked at the students with a demanding glare. Wendy and the group turned to return to their training. Loxus then replied, Not you, Marvel! Huh? What did I do, sir? You three are coming with me. Jalal, take my place and keep these younglings on task. Of course, Loxus. I wish you luck. Don't be soft on these kids. If you do, Urza will not let you hear the end of it. No need for a warning, Loxus. I know that better than anyone. The Electric Master and the Dragon Slayer youths walked a short distance away. Midoriya was the first to speak up. What do we do first, Master? We're ready to go all out. Good to hear. Now that you three have been charged with Dragon Mana, I'm going to teach you how to use Dragon Force. But before that, I want you three to get accustomed to your new power. To do that, we're gonna have to fight. Loxus threw off his large fur coat and attacked the three youths. The teens were able to dodge the tall man's strike. Good. To see that you three still have your agility, I'm impressed that you three recovered this quickly. The three thanked the Lightning Master for the compliment. Okay, follow me. We need some more room for this training. We do not want your classmates to be on the wrong end of the fight. The group walked to a clearing in the woods, a long way from the camp. Loxus then started to fight again. The youths found that their movements were faster, their senses keener, their strikes more powerful. It took some getting used to say the least. Many hours later, Loxus had exhausted the teens. All three were laying on the ground, breathing heavily. Wendy and Izuku now had a greater respect for Kaminari. The idea that the electric teen had endured years of training like this was mind-shattering. No wonder Kaminari was as strong as he was. I'm impressed by you three. Urza did not lie about your strengths, but you still have a ways to go. Catch your breaths and head to dinner. You have all earned a good meal. Meanwhile, a group of fearsome villains were gathering outside the camp. A skinny, patch-faced man spoke. Looks like we're all only missing 2 members. Once they arrive and night falls, we'll execute the plan. A large man wearing a cloak and a mask replied to the dark-haired man with a gravelly voice full of irritation. Come on, already. I just want to rage. Let me off the chain already. A young girl with a crazed look in her eyes came up to the group. What a plan, what a plan! I get to cut people. I just want to start now, too. No chance. Shigaraki told us this plan. I think it's a good one. We wait for the others and then we attack. The thin man mused to himself for a moment. You know, at first I thought Shigaraki was all talk. He was also way too hot-tempered. But now look at him. He gathered this elite assault group and came up with a great plan of attack. Now it is up to us to carry out the plan. Back in the campgrounds, the young wizards joined their classmates at the fire pits. The members of 1A were glad to see that their classmates were okay, and asked where they had been for the last day. The 3 teens did not know what to say. They figured that Urza would not want them to tell their classmates about magic, or the other information their masters had given them. Wendy was about to answer when a hand touched her shoulder. It was Lucy Hartfilia. The blonde woman replied to Class 1A's inquiry in a kind tone.
Ursa had some special training she wanted these three to undertake before they began. She pointed out Jalal. Alteris is one of the best trainers when it comes to elemental powers. She wanted him to give them the extra instruction on basic control before they started going hard at it.
Momo was the first one to speak up. That does make sense. Alteris was focusing his attention on Todoroki and Tokoyami the first day, and he was very knowledgeable about their powers. The rest of the 1A members all nodded in agreement with this explanation. Suddenly, Pixie Bob popped out and shouted,
Okay, let's get cooking. After you all eat, we have a special surprise for you all.
The hero known as Ragdoll then spoke.
You'll all get to prove your bravery in a test of courage.
That sounds like more work. We're all exhausted. With that, the members of 1A and 1B started to prepare their dinner. Midoriya and Todoroki used their fire powers to help the other students light their grills. Urged on by Ida, the students took on the task with little energy they could muster. After a short while, the group had prepared and eaten a delicious meal. This served to re-energize their bodies, but they were still a bit weary. The UA students gathered by the forest. The four pussycats explained how the test of courage would work. Class A would enter the woods in pairs, while members of Class B would hide in the forest and use their quirks to scare the members of 1A. After all the members of Class A had traveled through the woods, the two classes would change places. Mina Ashido responded with an exclamation with her normal enthusiasm.
This sounds so cool! I can't wait to get started!
Ursa replied to this show of excitement with a firm tone and a stern glare. I think not, Mina Ashido. I was not impressed by your efforts during training today, so the remedial class will still be coming with me for more instruction. Ashido's eyes went wide in terror. You've got to be kidding me! Ursa's requip spawned a rope into her hand. She then wrapped the remedial students and dragged them back to the main building. Outside of the camp, the League of Villains Vanguard Action Squad had all arrived and gathered on the hillside. Looks like everyone is here. You all know the plan. Get to work. We meet at the rendezvous point in an hour. Make sure you get to find the priority targets. The villains all spread out into the night. Their attack had begun. The Vanguard Action Squad and the students and heroes were in the camp below and did not know that a certain monster was hiding. In the shadows, his presence would make the events of this night turn out differently from how any of them expected. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that we the Celestials have many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day. And make sure you smash that like button!